Halloween used to be my favorite holiday. It was the one time of the year you could be anything you wanted to be. You could draw out your darkest desires and display them for the world to see. No one would think you were odd for being the person you always wanted to be. There was no judgment of your choice of attire, and oftentimes you were commended for that choice. And then at the end of the night, you received a reward for your efforts in the form of a bag full of candy. I am far too old to go door to door begging for treats, but I enjoy watching my children do the same. Weeks in advance, we let them pick their costumes. They were far too young to delve into the ghastly and usually end up picking a character of a popular movie or TV show. I simply take my pictures and urge them onto the doorway. I always reminded them to say trick or treat before the door opens. It has been this way for a few years now, but I'm starting to question on the tradition, especially after visiting 113 Forest Road. This past year, we made our rounds of our local neighborhood. We made sure to only approach the homes that had their porch lights on, which was unspoken rule. One night, our night had almost come to an end when we reached a home that had been vacant for the last 2 seasons. It was our largest within our neighborhood, towering over 2 stories when all the others had one level. It was large, brick Victorian monstrosity that many have once been beautiful, but the landscape had long needed work. It was the house most kids made stories about, and when we saw the dim glow of that yellow bulb, I was unsure of letting my children approach. My oldest begged to ring the doorbell, and my youngest simply wanted more candy. I was outnumbered and relented to their pleas. My wife sat with the idling vehicle while I followed close behind. The two made their way up the steps, and I waited at the bottom. Like always, I reminded them of what to say. My oldest son held his brother's hand and pressed the lighted button. Ringing as much as church bells echoed throughout the house for a moment, before returning to silence. After a few seconds, they turned to me with questioning looks. I had noticed a moving truck parked outside of the home earlier in the month and knew that someone must live there, but I had not seen them. There was no car in the driveway, and I did not see any lights on inside. I started to think that they were simply gone and left with the light on in case of the dark by the time they returned. I waved to my children to come back to the car and told them we would just head home. The look of disappointment on their faces told me they were not ready to end the night just yet. Their faces lit up as the door creaked to life and a voice beckoned for them to wait. "Trick or treat!" they both screamed with excitement. Feeling rolled like thunder and a signal of danger ran in my head. Something was not right. If they were home all this time, where was their car? I had been sitting in the driveway in the last few weeks. I instinctively advanced my 2 children, taking steps and leaps. A feeling inside me told me they should not go towards the voice, and I called for them to stop as they turned towards the door. "I choose both." The voice seemed strained, like a lifetime smoker. 2 right hands shot from the parted pathway and drew both my little boys inside. Their screams echoed in my head. Adrenaline shot me forward, but my body slammed against a closing door. I pounded repeatedly, screaming the obscenities of my Avery nature. My body shook violently as my world became a spiral of despair. The whole scene drew the attention of my wife, and soon she was right behind me, in an effort to find the entry. I took a step back, lifted my right foot, and dropped it to full force on the hardwood. The door frame shattered, allowed the barrier to fly freely in the darkness. I cried out in terror for my little boys as I rushed through each room. My entire reason of living had been snatched up in an instant. I had been too late to stop it. When the house had been searched completely with no results, my wife phoned the authorities through the wails of agony. We both held each other until the sirens lit up our tiny neighborhood. It had been a year now, and we still have no answer as to what happened to our children. My wife distanced herself from me, and I'm sure she blames me for what happened. I don't fault her for that. I blame myself as well. If I had not let them go to that door or listened to my feelings sooner, they would have both still been here. Halloween is no longer a time for fun for us, but a reminder of our mistakes. I don't even leave my house on that night, and even the sight of the pumpkin makes tears stream down my face. The drive home from work is especially hard, witnessing the houses that decorate for the occasion. I am almost a panic before I close myself within the safety of my home. Please, if you read this, don't let your kids visit 113 Forest Road on Halloween.